Hello, really excited to have Kevin from Tyre Glide with us today. We're going to be looking at what the next evolution of tyre levers is. So we're really excited to be here with Kevin from Tyre Glider, and super excited to be bringing this really cool new product to the market. So Kevin, you're able to give us a bit of background about how you got started with the product?
Yeah, well, my background with the Tyre Glider started in June 2020, where I initially had the idea kind of formulated in my head. Now, previous to that, it came from the fact that I came back into cycling after many years out and needed to change the tyre. And I tried taking the tyre off and realised I just couldn't do it. You know, tyre changing had changed a lot since I was grown up. Back in the days, I remember using spoons. You know, and it was so easy. You could literally use a spoon, take it off, you know, change your puncture, put the tyre back on. Easy, job done. And I was just mesmerised. I couldn't believe it. You know, I'm not a small bloke. I'm quite strong, and I just could not get this tyre off. Love no money. Just couldn't do it. And then when I finally got it off, I realised I couldn't get it back on. And it took me literally going back and forth, probably about 3 weeks, and that's not even lying. You know, going back and forth, just tackling a bit at a time, trying to get it, you know, trying different ways. And as I was doing it, I just thought there has to be an easier way. There has to be an easier way to do this. You know, as you do then, carried on cycling. Probably, I don't know, a couple of months later, I was opening a can of tuna over my kitchen sink. Literally just with one of them handheld cans, the ones on top, clips up the top of the can of tuna. And I looked at it and it just went, well, if a tin opener can open a can of tuna with that little strength, why can't something clip onto the rim of a bike and do the same thing, putting the tyre back on? And then kind of, you know, I ate my pasta and tuna, went for a walk the next day, and I remember it was like yesterday, it was at Rehook in Wales. I don't know if anyone knows where that is. Beautiful place if you ever want to go and walk. Soaking it was, absolutely drenched it was. We were on top of a mountain, me and a friend of mine, walking across, and then it just hit me like a lightning bolt. I said, hang on, why can't you do that? And then I was, you know, racking my brain and thinking about all the tyre levers on the market. I was like, there's nothing like that. I'm sure there's not. And then I went back home, researched the market for a good 2-3 weeks. I thought, right, there is actually nothing that looks like this on the market.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's quite difficult to do. I mean, yeah. When we started Rehook, it was we originally had the idea off the back of developing apps, and we were looking at constantly thinking, coming up with ideas, and it's like, is there an app for that yet? Or this is when apps were new. We're sort of trying to break new ground, and coming up with those original ideas and sort of recognising them, I guess, is quite a big moment, I guess.
Yeah.
So you had the idea, you knew what you knew there'd be a way of putting it together. How did you approach kind of turning that idea into a physical product?
Well, the next stage then for me was after it was bugging me for weeks and weeks. I was like, I have to go and do something about it. Like say, I've never done anything like this before in my life. Where do you start? Right. What I knew I needed to do was get a 3D model CAD design. I haven't got a clue. Wouldn't know where to start with. I don't even know what software to use. So I found a company called Papa Bravo down in a place called Abercynon, which was only 10 minutes away from my house. Went down, had a chat with them, got across what was in my head to the guys down there. I said, right, can you kind of come up with something, a 3D model, to try and make it work? We had one idea before this, was more like the tin opener kind of aspect. But then, in the meantime, when he was kind of developing that idea, I looked at it again, because I was always thinking about it, and I thought, well, if you could just utilise the clip onto the rim and push, perhaps that would be even easier. So then, when I seen him again next, I kind of got that idea across to him, and this is where Tyre Glider kind of was born then, really. He was starting with a clip first, and then everything else kind of developed over the next probably year. Probably took a year to develop until we got this kind of 3D prototype that was ready to go. You use it different from a tyre lever. So normally with the traditional tyre lever, you'd be attacking the tyre from this kind of angle, usually using your one hand if you're right-handed, left-handed, and trying to kind of lever it that way. So with the Tyre Glider, put the wheel in front of you, so it's face on, hold it in your palm. This then allows you to use your thumbs to push that bead up and over. So as long as you create that gap, you don't need to come in and see the gap, you can get the lip under the tyre. And then you just literally scoop it back. But all that little tab has to be under the tyre, and it sits really nicely there, as you can see there in the camera. Right, so from there, then you turn it around, and then it depends on strength. You know, I can probably try and push this from you, but if you need more kind of body weight and force, angle it down and push. Yeah. It just breaks the bead. Come out. And this you just push it on. So that side's now off. Take your inner tube off, replace your inner tube, put it back in. Now, the normal way to change a tyre, we'll put the tyre back on, is then grab your thumbs and feed the tyre back on by hand. No need to do that now with the Tyre Glider. You literally clip it on. I find it easier to start before the valve, so round about there, that's what I've always found easier. Take your one hand, just push it down behind the Tyre Glider, just to engage that bead behind it, and you just push forward, moving the tyre around. It automatically then reseats the bead behind it. Push all the way. Now you'll get to that little tight bit. Nice done.
It seems like just such an obvious next step to make it so much simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really light as well, that's the advantage of it. It only weighs 23 grams, so I know cyclists love things that's really light, so they carry in the saddle bag, for the weight aspect. Small, compact, doesn't take up much space at all. It's made out of something called polymethylene, or more commonly known as POM plastic. So I made it out of POM. I had the options, but the one thing with the POM as well was the friction. So it's a lot less friction with the POM, so it allows it more to glide. So when you're putting the tyre back on, it's that kind of, the less friction it's got, the easier it is to kind of glide back on. But it is really extremely strong as well, especially when you're taking the tyre off. As long as you get that bead and it sits there,
Yeah.
it shouldn't snap at all really. There's the force isn't when near the tap. Yeah.
It's great. I wonder if we should do a quick timer to see how quickly we can actually use the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we put it to the test?
And go.
Off.
Oh wow. Okay, that was 4 seconds.
4 seconds to take a tyre off. And this is obviously it's done a few miles, but this is a marathon tyre, so it's made out of Kevlar. It's fairly rigid. It could be easy to get off. There's obviously there's more difficult ones. If you get something like a Black Mamba or something, it can be particularly notoriously tricky to get on and off. But yeah, it just is. It's just amazing. It works so quickly. It's so easy to get it off. And I guess with regular tyre levers, there isn't normally a way to put it back into place too. So yeah, sort of reinstalling that is super easy too. So I've got my if I'm changing my inner tube, I can switch that out now, and to put it back into place, I imagine a similar amount of time just to put that on. So if it clips back on, do we want to do a timer again?
Hang on. Get set. Go.
Oh, slow. I'm slowing down. But yeah, and we've got another reseated tyre all set up there in just a few seconds. So it's really easy to use, and it glides it back on into place too.
I've yet to come across a tyre that I can't change, but I've been doing a year and a half, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, and I think particularly sometimes it's we found when we produced Rehook Plus, which has got a set of tyre levers included in it. It's we tried everything, so we've been through all of the sort of main, the sort of most popular ones, like sort of Pedros are a really sort of chunky, a really chunky set, which is better for sort of workshop. Some of the Park Tool ones are quite good, which are a bit more compact. But you do just get particular tyres that are really difficult. If you've got a particularly deep rim, with thin tyres, it is just a difficult task to do. And I think having that wider foot on the bottom to be able to get in is just makes such a big difference. So, when you go through the process of taking the idea to launch, what was the biggest challenge that you came up against, do you think?
For me, because I developed in lockdown, It was a massive challenge for me, because I had the idea literally in the middle of lockdown where, restrictions were in place. I live in Wales as well, so they were possibly a little bit tighter in Wales than they were in England. So trying to get the communication between myself across to the designers was the biggest barrier for me. And then launching, I myself launched just before Christmas, 15th of December I went live. Was then trying to get it out there, and when I was doing the 3D printed model and then I got this in my hand, I knew it needed credibility. So that was another barrier for me, was how do I get people to accept this as an evolution of the tyre lever, and it knows it works. I know it works, but how do I get that across to other people that it does work? So then giving it credibility was one of the next kind of steps for me. And I don't know if your viewers know, or you guys know, I sent it to a YouTube reviewer who was completely independent of me, and he reviewed it, which went live on the 9th of January.
This is the Ride with Roy video?
Ride with Roy video, and he tested it on a really tight tyre with a tri-bound wheel, I think it was. It took him an hour to change a year or so ago, he told me. And he could do it with one of these in less than 5 minutes. So, massive time saving, huge time saving. And it gave it that kind of credibility that I always knew that it deserved, really.
And that was pretty much when you had the first product in hand. Was there much time between actually getting them completed and getting the video up and live?
No, not really. Like I said, I went live on the 15th of December, and he had the review out on the 9th of January, so I got it out to him pretty quickly, which is fantastic, really.
Brilliant. Cool. And how have you found the world? So you mentioned earlier that you had some big news of leaving your job, so you've taken a step to go from working full time and working on this on the side to basically make the jump fairly quickly as soon as you got it out. So how's it felt to be making the jump?
It's a bit fearful, I gotta be fair, but exciting at the same time, because since the video with Ride Where I come out, I've seen pretty quickly that there is a place in the market for Tyre Glider, definitely a place in the market, and a worldwide market as well, not just restricted to the UK. This could help many people across the world, and it needs my full attention now. So trying to work full time and do this on the side realistically wasn't feasible for me anymore. So I need to kind of let my job go, focus in this full time, and try and grow it as much as I can now. So working in partnership with yourselves will definitely help that.
Brilliant, excellent stuff. Yeah, congratulations on it.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Big move.
Yeah.
That's great. Cool. I'm sure it'll be very successful, which is why we were so excited when we saw the product and sort of wanted to get involved too. So I think it's going to be a very successful thing, and should replace tyre leaves. I mean, there's no reason why it shouldn't. It's more compact, it's stronger, it's quicker, it's more reliable. It's definitely the next step, the evolution in tyre levers. So brilliant. So what are your next steps from here?
Next steps is like development. It's been out a month now in the real world, so when I was testing it, I can only test it on a certain amount of tyres and rim combinations. Feedback I've come back is overwhelmingly positive, and the feedback I've had back as well is perhaps this could be changed, perhaps that could be changed. Nothing really overly negative at all. So I'm taking the feedback on board, and there's a couple of design tweaks within the tool that I'm already thinking of, but that'll be done over this year, I hope. Little tweaks, perhaps to this tool, perhaps another one specific to mountain bikes. I primarily designed this for road bikes. It does work on mountain bikes, but there's no guarantees with anything. But so I think a little bigger version maybe for mountain bikes is in my plans as well. I have got another idea that I can't tell anybody about for IP reasons, but that's mainly around bike maintenance as well. So I've got an idea I'd like to take forward as well at some point.
Brilliant.
Perhaps later in the year, I'd imagine that'll be.
Cool.
Right, you ready?
Cool, so just slipping it under, levering it forwards, and it just glides straight off. So it's kind of in 3 steps really, I suppose, isn't it? You sort of going underneath the bead.
Underneath the bead, yeah.
Levering it to an angle, and then you just run around, gliding it straight off.
And put it on, so you clip on.
Even less steps,
yeah.
Clip, and it just glides it straight back into position.
Yeah.
Cool, and it is really smooth, isn't it? So that's the
Very smooth.
That's because it's been made with POM essentially, and it's super low friction, so it glides straight round.
There you go.
So there we have it. A few seconds, it's on, it's off, and just glide straight around the wheel. So. Brilliant. So thank you so much for coming in, Kevin.
Cheers,
appreciate it. It's been quite a trek. We're based in Norfolk. Kevin's come all the way from Wales, so it's been quite a few hour drive to pop over and see us. But yeah, really glad you could come over. It's been great to hear more about it.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers.